Hi all, Tech Teardown here. Today I want to compare Notion with Apple Notes. So let's take a look. Which one actually do we think is going to do a better job of helping us take notes? Let's dive in. So looking over at the left side, we have what is Notion. So this lives on web. So if you are wanting to take notes through an app, Apple Notes is immediately going to win out. But I don't think that's a deal breaker for most people. So we are going to put these to the test. So the way that I typically use notes is there's a set number of things that I'm trying to do pretty quickly. So we're going to test on each just to see how this actually works. First things first, a lot of times we want to create a quick header. And so over in Notion, you can click the plus button. You can do a quick heading 1. So this is a header. And that just helps us break up the note that we're looking at. But even better is that we can use something called Markdown to do that. So if we just type \H1, that backslash gets us straight into that menu. And I can create that with ever having to make any clicks, which makes this a really fast way to do things in Notion. You can also do other things. So for example, if you put stars around a word, then that would actually. So we can do other things here too. If we put stars around a word, then that's going to let us know that we can quickly do things like making that bold or an italic. We can do other things like pulling up that menu to do things like a to-do list. And so we can use Markdown for pretty much all of the features that you have in Notion, which makes it a great way to quickly make things if you're really used to taking notes in Notion. And they're just keyboard shortcuts that you need to get used to. So are we able to do the same thing in Apple Notes? The answer is no. We aren't able to do things like that within. So here I've tried to make something bold maybe. Let's try it with 3 stars. Does that do anything different? That one usually works in Notion. Nope, that doesn't do anything for us. If I quickly want to make a header, is there anything I can do here? There's just really not that many keyboard shortcuts or anything that allows us to do much dynamic in terms of Markdown. So that's going to be a no over in Apple Notes. What about something pretty basic like an arrow? So an arrow you can do in Notion very quickly just by putting that sort of caret symbol and a dash. So you can do these notes. It's pretty helpful visually sometimes when you're just trying to call something out. We'll try the same thing in Apple Notes, and it's giving us just a generic 2 characters here. It doesn't create anything more dynamic like Notion is able to do. So Notion's able to do it. Apple Notes, you really can't do anything there. I'll go ahead and make it bold over here just to say that yes, it worked. Did not work over here in Apple Notes. I guess the alternative that we have is you could look up the symbol and then put it in. Yeah, that's going to take a little bit. So not a deal breaker, but definitely not something you can do easy. Okay, what about bullets? So for bullets, the easiest way to do that is going to be a dash and then hitting the space bar. Great, it's done that for me. So it's put in a bullet here, which is awesome. It knows that I want a bulleted list, which is what I want. And so I could do a list of items here. And if I want to do a sub bullet, I just hit tab. Great. And I can do a list of sub bullets. That's exactly what I want. So that's working really well for me. And I don't even have to go into the menu. Super fast. Okay, let's try an Apple Note. So I'll put a dash just the same way. Okay, it's giving me a bulleted list, but it wants to use a dash. And personally, I just hate the way that looks. Don't think that's that great. Let's hit tab again. Okay, visually, I can see that's gone over, but the same style of bullet, yeah, it works. Don't love it, but I would not consider that fast. I would probably want to switch that out. So I will give a bold to both of those. They both do bullets, although I would say Apple Notes doesn't really do it that great. What about colors? So in Notion, you can highlight text and be able to change not only the text color, but you can also add a background, which I like to do. So I can do that colored background. I can change the text color if I wanted to. That's awesome. So what options do we have in Apple Notes? Is there any way to change the color there's not. So I'm not able to do anything here. I can change the paragraph style, but no options for color. So that's a pretty big disappointment. What about doing tasks? So for tasks, we have something called a to-do list in Notion. You can quickly make these just by hitting these brackets. So if you were to type in what I have in quotes there, that's quickly going to make a task list for you. Great. And if you were to complete it, nice, changes the color, does a strike through. I really like the way that looks. That's really convenient. Okay, let me take those out now. And what about over here in Apple Notes? You would actually need to use this button up here to create a task. And so you can create a list of tasks here. And you can use this button to check these off. Pretty nice. Yeah, I can see where I would use that. So I would give it a pass for tasks. A pretty nice way to do that. I am pretty happy with how that looks. Okay, so moving on to the next one. What about links? So a lot of times, maybe you're on a particular website and you want to save this article. Maybe you want to come back to it later. So if I want to do a link, I can just paste this in here. I can either create a bookmark, which is great, or I can highlight the text and actually paste that link the other way as this formatted link. So both of those work awesome. I'm really preferential to these. I like the way these look. It gives me context before I even click in. Makes it really nice and easy for me. So that's a resounding yes that this works really well. Okay, what about Apple Notes? So if I paste that same link, do I get anything fancy in here? I do not. It just gives me this generic link. Let's see if I want to link a destination. Okay, similar to how it works over in Notion. I really hate the way this link formatted, so I would not be using it that way. So I'll give it a pass, but it could be a lot better. Okay, and what about just general organization? Well, in Notion, you actually are able to create everything as blocks, which makes it pretty dynamic if you're wanting to do things like maybe put a picture beside the text. You can do that pretty easily. Let's say I wanted to pull these up to inline. Great. So now I have these two columns that I can work with. If I wanted to add a caption underneath, I could do a caption under here, which is really nice. I can do things like adding in particular lines. So I can do that to make it even better to break things up. And I can just quickly create these nice looking pages. In Apple Notes, I have nothing that I can do for organization, really. I can't, there's no blocks. I could paste a picture in here. So I'll, again, paste a picture in here. Okay, cool. I have the picture. Not able to do much with it. I can't move it around. You can see here. I can move it up, but it really takes up the whole page. And it works fine. But I would say this is not the best organization. And what about tables? Tables you can do in Notion along with a lot of other features. It works really well in here. So if I want to create a table, I can just do /n table, and I can add columns here and put in a table. I can also do the same in Apple Notes. So this would give me a similar table that I can use. In my opinion, Notion versus Apple Notes, because of what you can create in Notion, I'm much happier with what I can do in Notion than what I can in Apple Notes. And so I actually use Notion for all of my note taking, both on desktop and on iOS. So I'll do another video on what the experience is like in iOS, but this is what it's like to take notes in Notion. Now, another thing that I love here is you can actually add these covers. It just makes it visually really appealing, so it makes it a little bit more fun. And you can add these icons in here. So if I wanted to differentiate this as a notepad, I could put in a little notepad here. And so it gives me a really clean looking set of notes that I could take. So if you're new to taking notes in Notion, maybe you need a template or something to look at, I will link a version of the notes that I use in Notion in the description of this video. If you like this video, please subscribe, and thanks for watching.